Welcome back, everybody, to this our final panel on Focus Forward. We give you an extra 5 minutes there just to make an extra large cup of tea. Today, so far, we've looked at COP26 and climate change. We've explored the role of business leadership and how that can affect our journey in achieving ambitious targets for the city and indeed for Scottish and UK governments. But we're returning in this final session today to look at how innovation and disruptive technology in the city is already making an impact, and how we can think differently about innovation in the decades ahead. To open our final panel, can I welcome Kate Bordwell, who is the Creative Insight Lead in NatWest Group's Open Experience, which is an innovation and partnerships hub. So can I hand over to you, Kate, for your thoughts?
Yes, thanks very much. Thanks very much for inviting me as well. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm, as you said, I'm a creative insight lead at NatWest in the Partnerships and Open Experience Hub, which is effectively now a virtual innovation hub, where my role is very much to bring customers into the heart of innovation. I'm sorry, there's been a few technical difficulties and my slides are up there, so I'm just going to try and operate them. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that because, you know, my role is within the team is to ensure that customers, our innovation is guided by our customers. This isn't working. There we go. Sorry, a bit about me. So yes, I've done that part. And what's really important is about how we define innovation within the group. And you know, the easy way to talk about this is that innovation is new ideas that have meaningful impact on our customers. And although this panel is about disruptive technology and innovation, it's really important to remember that, you know, innovation only works if it works for your customers and it's based on customer need or a customer insight. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can do that. Sorry, this remote thing is, there we go, it's new for us. So our team is kind of a interdisciplinary team of designers, developers, delivery managers, and so on. And we also work with subject matter experts, both within the bank, like people who are really experienced in technology and risk, and those who know about payments or other types of kind of financial related things. We might also have experts in climate change, which is topical to today's talk as well. Or we might look outside to involve subject matter experts as well. We also work really closely with customers at every stage of the design process. This is the double diamond design process here, which allows you to start with a problem, go divergent in your thinking, explore all the possible areas, and you know, we do this with our experts and with customers as well. And with customers, it's a case of you know, traditional interviewing or other research methods, surveys, and so on, or we sometimes do observation methods as well, just to see what they're doing. We use all of that to synthesize what we found into a defined problem, and then we kind of create solutions, possible solutions to that based around that. And then we test them again with customers to see how well they work, to see how we can improve on them again. In the Open Experience, or OX as our team is known, we don't ever build anything that sort of finished. Our role is to ensure that we're prototyping and testing on a lean and agile basis. And then we will either kind of scale it to a pilot where we run something that works with a small cohort of customers, or we'll hand it back into the relevant department within the bank or to a partner to deliver to customers. So now I'm going to give you just quickly 4 ways that you can put customers at the heart in your innovation, using some examples from our work in the team. So my first one is, and I know I'm going from a customer's angle here, but there are some cases where we get asked to start with a technology and understand more about how customers respond to it and where the interest and innovation might come from that type of technology. So one of them is Cora here, who is an AI avatar, and we were exploring this technology to see how well customers responded to it and what types of situations it might work within. And as you can see, Cora looks quite realistic, and when she's speaking, she is quite realistic. And this was felt to be quite useful by customers in situations where they don't want to just do a kind of text conversation online or use some sort of online process. It feels like there's a bit more of a connection with an avatar like this. So it might be useful in situations like debt counselling, or even internally in training, for example. You could imagine having an AI coach. The trouble that we learned was that people found it really great, and they asked the avatar very sophisticated questions that she couldn't understand. So it's a type of technology that's to look out for in the future. Another project where we started with the technology was with voice technology, and we were given a very broad brief, which was what can the bank do with voice technology? And an obvious kind of solution with that was obviously voice banking. What types of things could we do? And we ran a pilot with Google to understand how well voice banking could work and what types of transactions people could do. So, rather than having to log into your app, you can ask Google, oh, what's my balance today? And it'll tell you. Or has that payment come out yet? And they would tell you that kind of thing. What we learned, which wasn't expected from customers, was just how valuable and empowering this was for people with certain disabilities and impairments. Visually impaired people being an obvious one, but perhaps also people who had difficulty with dexterity, using apps and so on. So, it is also a technology which you are likely to see a lot of in the future. The second piece of advice I would give you for putting customers at the heart of your innovation would be asking, what do people say they do versus what do they actually do? And there's a couple of examples where we've really enjoyed observing customers, not just taking what they say as read, for example. So one example would be where we were running a diary with customers to understand how they spend and how they plan their money. And we found that a lot of them were writing down what they knew that they had just spent. This was back in the days when online banking was fairly new. What they said was, well, we're doing that because what we can see is the clear transactions. We can't see our predicted balance now that we've just spent those things. So that was how the predicted balance got added into our banking app. The second example I wanted to share with you was we were running some research into how people look after important and valuable things, both physical things such as jewelry and certificates and passports and so on, and also virtual things such as your personal data. And all of the surveys that we looked at in our desk research was very much, there's three kinds of people who don't care and are pretty lackadaisical about their security. There's people in the middle who are the pragmatists, and then there's people who are very, very conscious of security and won't share anything and don't leave anything open to attack. So it seemed from those things and from what people said, it was very much split into three areas. What we learned when we asked people to record what they were doing and how they stored their data showed us a very different picture, that the vast majority of the customers that we watched in this study were very confused about what was actually safe to do. And we found people walking around with a book of passwords in their handbag, people who kept their filing cabinets in the shed in the garden, and people who were really, really confused about what to do. So it was very clear that we learned that some things, ways of teaching people about this would need to be built into processes as opposed to creating sources of information, because people just don't engage with that or they don't understand it. So yeah, that was a brilliant learning for us. And then also another way that I would recommend you put customers into the heart of your innovation is thinking about what customers are already using and how you might repurpose those. We had a great customer insight on investment and saving. There's a lot of customers who have lots and lots of money in savings accounts, which is just sitting there. It's not doing very much for them, and it's depreciating in value over time. We want to help them to see what they can do with investments. However, a lot of them are very worried about putting things into investments because they can't foresee sort of the hidden kind of pitfalls that are in their way. So for example, the parallel that we thought of here, the familiar tool, was like a sat nav, which tells you that there's traffic ahead, so you can do something else. And we were thinking, what if there was a sat nav for your money? And we ran a pilot of just that with some customers. The final tip I wanted to give you about putting customers at the heart of your innovation was, can you imagine your customer's future? And in our team, we have been beginning to use more and more speculative design and futures methodologies to do just that, to write fictions about the future. It's funny because we ran a workshop recently and somebody said to me, that was like bad sci-fi. But the thing is that I think 2020 for many people was like living through a bad sci-fi film. And if we're able to imagine lots of different types of futures and think about how our customers face those types of things, we can work backwards for them and help them prepare for them, or even help to prevent them from having to live that future, and help them to establish a more preferable future as well. And there's lots of different resources available on that kind of thinking as well. So I really hope that you found those 4 tips quickly. It's very hard to fit so much into a 10-minute presentation. So if anybody wants to ask me any questions, please feel free, or you can get in touch with me on the email address below. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kate. I'm now going to rush and get my filing cabinet in from the garden from what you have just said. I'm going to ask Kate to stay with the panel and we can get involved in a conversation around the role of innovation, not just in tackling climate change, although that is going to be a significant part of the discussion, but equally more broadly on the role of innovation and disruptive technology covering the economy. And you may have heard at the very beginning that Susan Aitken was setting out one of the aspirations for Glasgow to build an innovation. Glasgow is an innovation and technology hub on the back of COP26. So to help us have our discussion with our final panel today, first of all, I'm delighted to welcome back Jo Chidley, who spoke in our previous session from Beauty Kitchen UK Limited. Hi, Jo. For anyone that might have missed the first panel, Jo is the founder of her company on a mission to create the most sustainable beauty products in the world. So welcome back, Jo. I'm also delighted to welcome to our panel Dr. Sam Chapman, Managing Director of spin-out company Kenotech Limited, whom I saw were in the press today, getting a good bit of coverage. Kenotech's patented K-brick is an unfired brick made of 90% recycled material using traditional methods and spurns environmentally unfriendly cement. The K-brick is made nearly exclusively from waste materials and boasts the highest recycled content of anything in the UK. So a great example of innovation there. Welcome next to Gillian Docherty, OBE, Chief Executive of the Data Lab, an innovation centre with a mission to help Scotland maximise value from data and lead the world to a data-powered future. The Data Lab believes Scotland can lead the world to a future where data powers scientific progress, economic prosperity and social good. Gillian's also Deputy President here at Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, so welcome to Gillian. And finally, I'm delighted to welcome my friend and colleague Alison McCrae, Senior Director at Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, where she's responsible for our strategic partnerships portfolio, which seeks to innovate and anticipate new opportunities for Glasgow and its business community. Alison, in particular, is currently facilitating a movement for change around circular economy principles in Glasgow, working alongside networks like Circular Economy in the Netherlands, Zero Waste Scotland, Glasgow City Council and various other city stakeholders. So welcome to you all. I'm going to bring in Gillian first, particularly on a question really about what you're seeing in and around Glasgow around innovation and market disruption, and how the extent to which leaders are thinking about innovation in their strategies. Maybe you could say a little bit about Data Lab as an intro to that, but if you could say what your experience is about the role of innovation in and around our patch.
Sure, thanks, Stuart. I think one of the key things to mention is the Data Lab is part of a broader Innovation Centre programme, and there are 7 centres, 7 areas of Scotland. At the Data Lab, we obviously focus on helping organisations innovate through data science and artificial intelligence. But some of our sister innovation centres focus on things like industrial biotechnology, sensors and IoT systems, innovation in the construction sector, and innovation in health around precision medicine and digital health and care. And collectively, we have been operating for the last 6 or 7 years, and we have seen a significant increase in the aptitude towards innovation, research and development in all of the work that we do in the areas that we focus. So it's been very exciting. And Glasgow, absolutely, we've seen some fantastic examples of innovation. The work that my colleagues do at Precision Medicine on improving healthcare outcomes, the work that iBio do in terms of circular economy and sustainability and using waste products from one industry and using new techniques to make them useful for other industries. And for us at the Data Lab, some wonderful examples in Glasgow with organisations such as Egg Lighting and Arbinco, looking at optimising and making our homes and more energy efficient and making our use of lighting much more energy efficient and sustainable than it currently is. So I'm really excited to work in this field, and it's great to see so much happening with organisations innovating in Glasgow.
Great stuff. Thanks, Gillian. Sam, can I bring you in? You're a great example of innovation in action. Just can you tell us a little bit about what you learned? Tell a wee bit about the company and a little bit about what you've learned that you think would help other business leaders succeed in using innovation, new technology, and growing a business model.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks for having me today. As you mentioned briefly, so we've just been awarded and just announced today in the press the Circular Economy Investment Fund from Zero Waste Scotland to ramp our production facility of our new sustainable brick from a very small pilot plant up to a commercial scale. So today's a really positive day for the company, and I'm really happy to be sort of talking through about it. As was mentioned there, a big part of our journey has been working with innovation centres, and in particular the Construction Scotland Innovation Centre, because there is big challenges in our industry in the construction sector. But with that, there's big opportunities, and the likes of the Innovation Centre really show that there are so many companies established out there that are looking for new sustainable and innovative approaches. But then there's also new companies like ours that can have access to to those established companies and really understand what the market wants and how we can help through innovation. So, as part of our development of the product, it's all been about circular economy in the design, both of the product and of our business model. And in working with the industry. So there's been a lot of legislation within the waste industry, construction industry, which has basically left an option, an opening for companies like ourselves to develop new products around this whole mentality. So, we don't want to be seen as disruptive. We want to be seen as a collaborator in line with everyone else in the industry, and really kind of react to the big challenges that are out there and see those as genuine opportunities.
Super. Thanks very much, Sam. That's excellent. And congratulations on your on the developments today. Very impressive. Alison, can I bring in? You have been working quite closely on the issues around circular economy that Sam's mentioning. Tell us a little bit about Circular Glasgow and some of the work that's been involved in that, and perhaps some of the lessons emerging out of the work that we've been doing on circularity.
Thank you very much, Stuart, and great to be here today, part of this panel. Yeah, I mean, Circular Glasgow started about 5 years ago, and it's a partnership with Zero Waste Scotland and Glasgow City Council and the Circular Economy in the Netherlands, and now Insight Futures as well have joined our support mechanisms. And really, it's all about putting Glasgow on the map as an innovative city that is embracing circular economy. So our message from the Chamber has always been about the engagement of business and how the city could become more circular. And as part of that journey now, it's fantastic that last year the City Council launched its own circular route map for the city, and we'll be a partner in that. But I suppose the role that the Chamber has played in this is fundamental to its DNA, which is about brokering connections and storytelling and sharing knowledge in terms of supporting our members in the wider business community, but also championing Glasgow. So some of that's involved knowledge share. It's been about bringing in examples and case studies of businesses who are doing this live, many of whom we've heard from this morning, which is great to see. Some of that's been one-to-one engagement to help people get a start. And as Andrew Griffith and others have said this morning, actually, this is about taking a first step. Semi-circular is fantastic. Don't get bogged down with the I have to be circular overnight. It's a journey. So I think that's another message that's worth reiterating. And then, of course, the Chamber plays a very strong role in storytelling. So that could be the businesses themselves, and it could be the Championing Glasgow message. I would say in terms of some of the lessons that have been learned, a lot of the engagement that has been done has been through SMEs, and that's largely because of the partnership with Zero Waste Scotland. What's been tremendously exciting to see, in particular in the last 18 months, is the mobilisation of the corporate world, and partners like the Royal Bank of Scotland, KPMG, Accenture, Scottish Leather Group have been on a long journey and are now winning business proactively just because they are able to say that they are doing a fully circular model now. And then we have many other examples who are coming in addressing other sectors in terms of fashion. We've got ACS Clothing. It's all about rental and refurbishment of garments to help tackle the fashion element of the crisis. University of Glasgow's in this space as well with Saviour Wardrobe using intelligent personal new technologies. And then we've got university startups like the University of Strathclyde's Revive Eco, where the business model is all about taking waste product of coffee and extracting the oils which have a comparable kind of a quality to palm oil, which could help resolve many of the issues that are being created by the food industry and also food consumption therefore as well. So I think making a start is number one message, taking a start. Please go and look at our Circular Glasgow website. You'll see a digital toolkit on there. Download that. It gives you really easy steps to see how your business can go about taking those first steps. I would say feel free to take messages out to your supply chain, because that's where we'll change gear. If we've got large and small businesses all working together, that's where many of these opportunities will unlock. So innovation and future-proofing your business is why the Chamber has been so excited about this in the last few years. And I, for one, am thrilled to see so many more people engaging, because this is a Team Glasgow journey for us.
Thanks, Alison. Great. Joe, you've been through a whole process of innovating. It's right at the centre of your company. Tell us a little bit about the ups and downs of that journey.
Yeah, so we're a beauty indie brand, but ultimately when we started out, we were a sustainability company that saw an opportunity within the beauty industry. Myself and my husband, who's the co-founder, have a background in health and beauty, so we had expertise within that area, but we also brought to it the scientific element from a sustainability perspective. But when we first started out, we had to make sure that consumers would actually want more sustainable products. So in the beginning, we did things in a fairly traditional fashion. We produced effective, using effective formulations, because people won't buy a beauty product if it doesn't work, or they certainly won't buy it again. But what we did behind the scenes is we ensured that those formulations were natural but sustainable, because just because it's natural doesn't necessarily mean to say it's sustainable. But our products were then put in everyday plastic packaging. But the ultimate goal for us was to move into the circular economy fully by having a reuse model, particularly for packaging. So the personal care and beauty industry creates 280 billion pieces of plastic packaging every year. And 92% of that is only used once. And only 9% of it is ultimately recycled. So, you know, what we can talk about all day with regards to plastic and recycling, I'm not going to go into. The way that we tackled it from an innovation perspective at Beauty Kitchen was that we thought, why not have the iron brew bottle for beauty and have reuse and get that mindset back so that the consumer starts to engage with reuse. And that's where the innovation and also the tech aspect came in, because we have to make it contemporary. We have for the digital age, for the digital consumer. So what we've done is we have a variety of packaging materials from glass, aluminium, and stainless steel. And we also have refill in store with those options. But we then provide a programme of being able to return that packaging to us to be able to be washed and then filled and sent back out. But the key here is really what Sam said. It's not about being disruptive, it's about collaborating. So Beauty Kitchen has done all of that, and we've then gone out to the personal care industry to say, you can use everything that we've done. And our first customer to the Return, Refill, Repeat programme was Unilever. And that happened in October last year. And I think that's where, you know, you have an opportunity as a small growing business. You can make the changes, yet because you are smaller and more nimble. But please believe that bigger corporate organisations want to hear from you and your innovation. And it was mentioned earlier in terms of new ideas that have a meaningful impact to customers. And I wrote that down because this reuse part, particularly with consumer products, is on the cusp of something huge.
Thanks very much, Joe. That's very impressive indeed. Thank you. Sam, can I bring you in on the back of that? Tell us a little bit about the product that you have and your own experience of going through that innovation process.
Thank you. So it's been a long process. So the construction industry, not as longer lead times as maybe the medical sort of industry, medical devices, but you know, there's a lot of testing, a lot of certification, standard, you know, regulations, standards that are required for the building industry, completely understandably. So this is a bit naughty to say, we're a spin out from an Edinburgh university in the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce event here today. But so we spin out from Heriot Watt, which means we're a new company, but actually there's been many years of research and development in the background with developing prototype product. You know, this is a brick, but we still need to, you know, develop versions of the product and test it within real environments and how the brick will be used. So all sorts of technical characteristics, technical testing that we've had to go through for many years with tremendous support from Scottish Enterprise, Zero Waste Scotland, the Construction Scotland Innovation Centre, just to name a few. But a lot of working with in the laboratories and coming from the kind of engineering background, which is my background, the technical side, but then really to then develop the business and how we can bring this to market. And it was just said there, you know, big companies want this change. You know, it's not that it's kind of the new versus the old. It's everyone's trying to figure this out, and you know, legislation really helps to drive that. But we've, you know, been through many years of development, even just to get to this kind of next stage of a pilot production facility. And now we're in sort of chicken and egg of now we're putting this big new facility of 3 million bricks a year. And that's still very small for the industry. You know, 2.5 billion bricks are used a year in the UK. And over 500 million of those are imported. And you know, we're looking to make 3 million a year in the near future. So it's really still small scale, but it's those kind of staged steps and not just wanting to license the product to someone else, but to really go through this process ourselves and really commit to this journey. And all part of that, again, is collaborating with waste companies. So our product is made from over, you mentioned 90% recycled content. We're actually sort of near over 95% and looking to make that 100%. So all of our input material comes from recycled construction and demolition waste, which is also certified under various environmental regulations. So both from the start of the product to then the use of the product, there's so many important steps that we've had to go through, and without kind of the amazing support we've had from public bodies, I wouldn't be sure that we would be here. So it's, lots and lots of steps and lots of important steps, and as soon as possible, understanding what the industry needs and what users of product, what people want to live in houses made from sustainable materials. The construction industry, if it was a country, would be the third highest emitter on the planet. Cement has incredible detrimental effect. So, we're all trying to make a change, but it's making those stepped approaches to a very big, significant, scaled problem.
Great, thanks, Sam. Can I turn to Kate and ask the extent to which you engage with others, you collaborate with others in your innovation processes, and a little bit about how much actually you do that gets to an end result, and how much you have to accept. You're going to have a whole series of failures. What's the sort of balance?
It's always a good question. I suppose we have to be in it for the journey and enjoy the creative process as much as we enjoy kind of handing it over to customers. On the collaboration point, we have always, as an open experience, been open to collaboration, whether that's collaborating internally with the different business areas that like to engage us. We work right across the group, so that goes from retail banking through to corporate and commercial banking to private banking and Coots, but also we look at some of our big strategic questions as well around climate change, purpose, and kind of, also where are we going in the bank as well, some of those types of questions, and bring customer and future and innovation thinking into those types of questions. Externally as well, we have been working with partners. I mentioned that we had done that voice pilot with Google. We ran the AI avatar pilot with a company called Soul Machines in New Zealand. They're the sort of front runners in the world of creating these AI avatars. We have recently launched a climate carbon tracker with Microsoft as a partner. So yeah, we're increasing, and in terms of our team, we're growing our partnership arm as well, and are open to partnerships within our team as well, because we have got expertise in customer research and innovation design thinking. We work with some of the small startups that are within the accelerator in RBS and NatWest as well, so we'll offer some of our time for them to get them off the ground. And recently there's kind of some work that we've been doing with Thermify, which you may or may not have heard of. They're an Edinburgh company, I'm sorry. So yeah, that's that. In terms of kind of the end results, yeah, I mean, I think we want things to work, and we know that they need to work. So working with customers and with the right partners often does help that. Things do get kind of put away sometimes, and then they get revisited as well. So even when sometimes things haven't kind of worked immediately, we might well come back to them and revive them in a different form as well.
Thanks very much. Gillian, can I turn to you? You have to look ahead quite a lot in your role and ask questions about what may be coming over the horizon. What is it that you've got in your mind that you think we might be looking at by way of innovation in the next 5 to 10 years, perhaps, in your field?
Wow, there's just so much. It's a really exciting space, the data science and AI and the impact on pretty much every industry, from startups through to multinationals. If I think about the kind of climate challenge that we'll have, which Sir David Attenborough says, it's so much bigger even than COVID for us, and the amazing work that's going on using data science and AI techniques, whether it's to optimize renewables, maintenance of offshore wind farms, whether it's optimizing decommissioning of traditional oil rigs or other rigs. It's really quite exciting across a variety of application of different techniques, whether it's machine vision, identifying the kind of species that are on rig legs that grow, that help with the planning of decommissioning, through to the use of satellite imagery for crop growth yield predictions and optimizing crop growth. So I think we're going to see much more visible applications of techniques like that in many industries. And what is exciting is that actually it can give a great opportunity for us to tackle some of the climate challenge that we do have.
Yeah, this is a question I'm going to be asking everyone on the panel. The current favourite inspiring case study of innovation success, your particular favourite. Gillian, do you want to kick us off on that? An example that you would say that stands out?
There's probably so many. One really simple one actually is the use of computer vision technology in the Amazon. So in cameras that have been set up and using computer vision to automatically alert illegal logging, for example. The accumulation of these kind of case studies, I think, will really, really help us. But that's a really simple one, and great to see that. And a similar one is being used for NatureScot. So we worked with NatureScot to automatically classify their species to help with their decision making on developments in Scotland.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Can I ask the same question then to Alison?
Oh, well, that's this is where I get very excited, as you know, Stuart. I would say that the favourite kind of space is probably some of the potential that the likes of 3D printing's unlocking already. So last year, for example, the world saw an architect called Yves Bihar doing the world's first 3D printed village in Latin America. And the implications for that and the speed actually of its delivery are phenomenal, but also how that can be translated into the likes of social housing, potentially even resort management for destinations in a tourism sector. And then at a much more granular level, if you take 3D printing into products where you would, get your data file from New York, where you've just selected your amazing piece of furniture and get it manufactured here in Glasgow and then brought locally into your home. I mean, that's where it all becomes so game changing, and also introduces new ways of trading internationally, which I think is another area that's going to see really interesting shifts.
Thanks, Alison. Excellent. Kate, I'll come to you next. Your favourite case study of innovation?
It's a really good question, isn't it? I would say probably the speed to which voice technology has entered our lives, our workplaces, our homes. It has come in. What I would say is the thing to watch out for next is how can we integrate voice and Internet of Things so that we have a very seamless and secure ecosystem that makes life much more convenient and efficient.
Super, thanks, Kate. And Sam?
Right. So, well, within my space, I really like a company called Indie Nature. So they're making construction insulation from plant-based materials, well, namely hemp. But I find their journey has many parallels with us, and I'm really enjoying watching their sort of journey. And again, it's all about sustainable new products for a very established traditional application. How can we start changing some of the incumbent materials that are out there in the likes of building projects and making those more sustainable, and how does that feel for the user within a building? I think we all want to live in more sustainable dwellings, so I think that's a really good example.
Superb. That's very helpful. And Joe, over to you.
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit off piste because I think everybody's covered, technologies that are not necessarily, well, they are here and now, but they are a bit more in the future. What's exciting me at the moment is the development in some of the technologies based here in Scotland, and it's solar thermal. It's to get us to move away from fossil fuels, and as a small business, being able to make that switch from fossil fuel energy to renewable energy with a Scottish-based business like Saltropy, who's leading the way in solar thermal and making it affordable for small companies like me to be able to get on that journey to net zero more realistic. I think it's those practical applications that really excite me, that I can do it now.
Fantastic. And I'm gonna bring this to an end with one final question. Actually, I'm just going to direct this to Alison, just maybe to say a little bit about likely trends in circular principles or circular thinking, largely because the Chamber's taken such a on circular economy. So, Alison, just say a little bit about what you see coming ahead on that.
Well, thanks, Stuart. I think first of all, I would just say that it's actually really important that everybody understand why we're even talking about circular economy beyond the fact that it's good from an innovation point of view. And that, Andrew said, we need a planet. This is about the battle of the temperature, ultimately. And if you actually pare it back, looking at the Paris Agreement, 55% of the targets and the gas emissions are going to be conquerable, if you like, through renewables. But the balance of the 45% is about a much wider shift in circular. And that will help to accommodate for all the population shifts, and it will hopefully bed in a really strong, good for all economic growth as we move forward. So I think in terms of the context, I would like to see a trend and understanding about that. Jobs, 85% of jobs don't even know what they are in the next 10 years. So that gives you an indication of the kind of shift that's coming through and is going to come through in terms of how that lands with business. So you're going to see a big trend in changing roles. In terms of the big areas that are likely to impact, and circular specifically, if we just take, for example, transport, 25% of global emissions from transport alone. Very contentious because people get sensitive about that. Does that mean we shouldn't be flying? Clearly, that is not a message that we would embrace. But what we're excited about is the changes that are starting to come through. So you can start to see short haul flight shifts. So last year we had, or in the UK, we had the first Piper Malibu taking flight from Cranfield, which actually managed to do short haul flights, which is fantastic. It's Europe's largest emission-free aircraft. They hope to be up to 50 to 100 seats in the next 10 years. And amongst that, we would be hoping to see shifts in product design engineering in terms of long-haul aircraft and new technologies to enable that, so that we can all actually go around the world, mindful that we're going to have a growing population and more people moving. Then we've got the really cool, funky stuff that's going to happen in cities, electric taxis, air taxis. That's already started. Airbus and Hyundai have already embraced that in terms of autonomous vehicles, more efficient batteries and advanced manufacturing techniques. That's live globally. That's going to be coming through pretty quickly. If you start to look at buildings, we've heard a little bit about buildings. Obviously, we've got Kinotech here, which is great. Smarter cities. When buildings are going up, the likelihood of seeing intelligent buildings. Again, there are some examples of hotels already globally around that, where you have intelligent facades and frames of buildings that can understand the population in the building and adjust its energy consumption accordingly. They almost behave like their own independent ecosystems in terms of how they use water, how they use resources. But then again, taking it into the consumption piece, they might have a restaurant on the roof, for example, with hydroponics, where it's a self-contained, the food is grown on site and then brought into the restaurant and then served to the guests. So that's just a bit in the kind of whole buildings piece, which is 20% of the global emissions. And then if you look at food, actually, that's another big area, and food consumption is a very contentious issue, as I'm sure most of you know. But if we just take lab-grown meat, for example, and Bill Gates is already funding a company called Beyond Meat. There is actually a Glasgow spin-out, I'm delighted to say, through Strathclyde University, which is 3F Bio, and it's all about commercialising a patented technology around making protein a sustainable proposition, a plant-based protein. So you're going to see a lot of shifts coming through just in those three areas, all of which are currently loading a lot of the emissions at the moment.
Thank you very much, Alison. A nice way to round it up. So I'm going to say thank you to Kate, to Gillian, to Joe, to Sam, and to Alison for your contributions this morning, as we now turn to the end of the whole event. Just looking back over the last, 4 hours, perhaps remembering in particular Susan Aitken, the leader of the council's contribution, where she was highlighting, I think, 5 key messages in the anticipation of COP26 coming to Glasgow. First of all, that the role of cities is going to be imperative, that national governments will make commitments, but it's actually cities that will deliver them, that it matters that COP26 needs to be relevant to the people, and that Glasgow is making a very strong message around social justice to the United Nations. Thirdly, that there's a very strong role for business in delivering on sustainability, and that the city is going to develop, or is in the process of developing, a green investment prospectus, that shopping list of projects that we can expect that the private sector business to invest in. Fourthly, that we are strongly aiming, very relevant to this last panel, aiming to make Glasgow a centre of innovation, a hub of technological innovation on the back of COP26, not just in addressing sustainable development, but often indeed doing so. And then finally, this notion that we need to work hard to get the green economy skills in place, knowing there's going to be disruption, knowing that we have to achieve a just transition. So has Glasgow led the way in forming the skills network, the skills structure that's going to help folks get into the green jobs as they emerge. Thanks to Alex Sharma and to Andrew Griffiths for making their contributions, and particularly in raising the profile of Race to Zero. To Guy Jefferson at Scottish Power for his highlighting the role that the Glasgow Green Business Charter will play in supporting that race to net zero. And particularly advice from the likes of Joe and from Warren Bowden at Scottish Leather Group to basically say, just start, get in, don't try and solve every problem, just begin. And I think Warren's advice that perhaps the very first step to take is to measure what you think your carbon impact is. So I hope you found something useful from the sessions this morning. There's a lot for us as a chamber to take on board. We're certainly going to be working hard to connect with UK, Scottish and local government to ensure that our business community is properly supported, not just through the sustainability journey, but also in making the most out of COP26 as an event. And we are working as a chamber on a programme of events to ensure that you have a chance to engage in the summit. We're working closely with the City Council on events. You heard a little bit from Susan Aitken earlier on that. But we're also keen to make sure that we've helped as a business community to make the city a leader, a genuine leader in tackling the climate emergency. So please do get in touch with us at climatechamber@glasgowchamberofcommerce.com with any thoughts, experiences, questions, contacts or case studies that you think we should know about. We really want to hear all about your experiences and shout about them, frankly, around the Glasgow community and beyond. My many thanks to all the speakers today, but a special thanks to the Royal Bank of Scotland for partnering us so capably and so extensively this morning. We're very much looking forward to working with the Royal Bank of Scotland as they explore all that's going to come from COP26 in the weeks, months and years ahead. The expo and networking areas are now open. They're open through to 1:30 today, so please do make use of them if you can, if you wish. And final thanks, therefore, is to you as an audience, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you very much indeed.